There are two accounts which make up this story. The first is a transcript of a recovered journal from a nurse at the Hawthorne Pines assisted living facility. The second is a transcription of recorded audio logs from an elderly woman named Evelyn Harrow, also a resident at Hawthorne Pines. This is what happened in the days leading up to August 3rd. Chapter 1, The Night Nurse's Journal. Beatrice Holloway, RN, August 1st. Oscar wasn't just a comfort animal, he was a shadow. A gray tabby with calm eyes. Everyone here loves him. He arrived 5 years ago. The shelter said he had a gentle soul. They were right. He moves like smoke, sits on windowsills, purrs in laps. August 2nd. Oscar only stays in one room at night. Every time that person dies by morning, the staff calls it a gift. He can sense when the end is near, they say, but they aren't looking closely. I am. Patients with no diagnoses are gone, no warning, no deterioration. Just blank eyes and no breath. I told myself I was imagining it until Eleanor Morris. She wasn't on hospice, no medications, fully alert. She spent today coloring by the window and singing softly. When I did rounds at 2:00 a.m., Oscar was curled on her chest. At 5:00 a.m., she was cold to the touch. I checked the security cameras. The timestamp glitched when Oscar entered a room. Entire sections went blank. One frame, only one, froze long enough to show Oscar in Eleanor's room. He sat by her bed, but her face was contorted in a silent scream, eyes locked onto something just beyond the lens. Something not in the room. Chapter 2, Evelyn's recordings. Evelyn Harrow, 91, hospice patient. That cat wasn't sent here. It found its way in. When he entered my room on the first night, the lights flickered for just a breath. He stopped, tail low, sniffed the corners. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I've seen things like him before. In the house where I was born, my mother warned and warded me from such entities. Later that day, Beatrice approached me after dinner. Her eyes, sharp, haunted, she knew. I'd seen that look before. The look of someone who's touched something older than God and can't speak of it in daylight. She told me what Oscar had done. I told her he wasn't a cat. He was a shapeshifter. A thing not born of this world, not of fire or hell. Something older. A mimic, a soul wither. August 2nd. Oscar began sleeping outside Mr. Dawes' room. He was 87, partially deaf, lived alone in the facility. No children, no relatives. No visitors, no one who would call or ask questions. The perfect victim. That afternoon, Beatrice and I spoke through the intercom system. We had no family to contact, no priest to call in. Just me, Beatrice, and Dawes, who mostly stared out the window, whispering to someone who wasn't there. The lights dimmed every time Oscar entered that hallway. August 3rd. This morning, I found Beatrice crying in the med closet. She said she couldn't remember the name of her childhood dog. Said it used to be a comfort to think of it during hard nights. She looked at me with such fear. He's starting to eat pieces of me, she whispered. Later that day, I heard her scream. Not a sharp, sudden sound, but a slow unraveling like thread pulled from a tapestry. Then silence. That night, Dawes sat quietly, blinking, mumbling something about his mother's piano. We prepared salt across the doorway, runes drawn in iodine. A mirror with etched sigils placed at the foot of the bed, the reflective side down. Somehow still Oscar slipped in. At first just the blur beneath the curtain, but then he unfolded, his legs bent backward, his tail split. The skin peeled away. Not revealing flesh, but something made of dust and empty spaces, wrapped in shadow like old clothing. He opened his mouth, but it wasn't a mouth. Just silence pouring out. The lights turned blue. My hearing went blank. Beatrice screamed, and I threw down the mirror. It shattered. And for one long moment, Oscar stopped moving. The thing convulsed, twisting like it was being rewritten. It let out a sound like memory burning, then collapsed to still. Cat leg again. Evelyn Harrow, final entry. They never questioned what happened to Oscar in Dawes' room. No witnesses, no autopsy. They said Dawes must have sat on him accidentally in the night, Dawes being too old to be believed. No one cared enough to dig deeper. I didn't blame them. Later that day, Beatrice handed in her resignation. Her voice was flat, her eyes empty. She hugged me, cold hands, too long. Thank you, Evelyn. I hope you're at peace now. But I watched from my window later. She didn't go to her old blue Corolla. She walked toward the maintenance road where the woods begin. I whispered, "That's not Beatrice." And I remembered her eyes just before she left. They didn't reflect light. They swallowed it,